Hi there, it's Andy from Email Love, and today we are going to discuss Figma components and properties. Now, if you're not familiar with what a Figma component is, I'm actually going to cheat and read it from Google. It says a Figma component is a reusable design element, such as a button, an icon, or a card that serves as a template for consistent and efficient design across a project. And so what that means is a component is basically in terms of email, it's a reusable section or a reusable component or reusable piece of content within a component. So a button is a really good example of what could be turned into a Figma component. And the idea is with the Email Love Figma plugin, you would have a master design system built from the components. You would make an update in that master design system, and it would then cascade across every place in Figma that you've used that template. So if you want to change your button from having square corner radius to a rounded corner radius, you can do that once, and then it will update everywhere that you've used that button in Figma. So that's the beauty of it, and that's why we set up our design systems in that way using the Figma plugin. So let's jump into Figma and show you how this works. Okay, so here is Figma. I'm going to make this bigger so you can actually see it. Okay, so here is a standard email component, or it's not a component, it's just a standard section of an email. So it's got 2 columns, it's got an H5 headline, a button, a price tag, and whatnot. And so right now, this is not a Figma component. So this is just a standalone piece of content in Figma. This is not tied to anything. And so the first step is let's turn this section into a component so that we can easily reuse and update it later on. And so to turn something into a component, you click on this diamond icon in the top right. It says create component. Then you'll notice it turns purple and it has the component icon next to it. And so we now know this is a Figma component, and we can now use this within our asset library. And so one of the first, and actually one of the nicest features is we now have access to this component on the left-hand asset library tab, and we can insert this into here. So here we have the parent component at the top, and then this is a child component. And so just to demonstrate the power of this, if I want to change this H5 headline from black to red, I can do that here, and then you can see it instantly updates in the child components. Okay, so that's how to create a component and then update it, and you can see here it updates the child. The other thing that we can do in here is we can apply properties to our components. And so when we are building a design system for a customer, we will typically apply properties to any images, text, or buttons in their email. And so let's apply some properties to the content that we have inside of this column. So we have an image frame, we have 3 text frames, and we have a button. And so what I'm going to do is select the image frame first, and then under the Appearance tab on the right-hand side, I'm going to click on the Property button, and then click on the plus icon to add my property, and I'm going to call this Property and Image. And so what this does is I can basically turn this image on or off with this button now that I've created a property for it. Okay, so that has a property. I'm going to add a property to the subheader. Again, just select the frame, click on the plus icon, and then create the property. And I'm going to do this for all of the content I have in here. And then last one is the button. Okay. So to see this in action, I'm going to come to my child variant. And then in the top right corner, you can see here we now have these buttons. And what I can do is I can now turn these things on or off. So you can see if I want to remove the H5 headline, I just turn it off. It removes that frame from the email. And what it's doing is it's basically just hiding. So if we open this up, you can see here, it's just hidden that frame. I can actually come to the left-hand side and I can also use the eyelid icon, but it's quite nice just to have them named. And so our customers love this feature because it enables marketers to edit what is in their template without having to mess around with any of the frames or anything like that. Okay, so we've created a component. We've applied properties to that component. And we've also looked at that component inside of the asset library. And actually, if we open up the asset library again, one thing we can do is also, you can see the properties in action right here as well. So, okay. The other thing that we can do is you can create a variant of a component. So now that we have our master component, we're pretty happy with it. We have properties on the component. And now if we click on the top right diamond icon, you can see that it says add variant. And then you can see here, this is basically for creating slightly alternative versions of the original component. And so I might want to offer a variant to my marketing team where there is no button on either side of the in each column. And so what that does is in our asset library on the left hand side, we can open that up, and then you can see here we have two variants, and I believe we can change the name of them as well. So we can rename this from default to let's just call it main 2-column, and then for variant 2, I'm going to call that alternative. Okay, so now you can see here in the property tab, we have one called, sorry, must have done that wrong. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, so we have the main component, we have, interesting, I don't know why the components aren't being renamed. Okay, that might have been a better way to do it. So all I did is I selected the main component, and then over here under the properties tab is where you can rename the variant itself and then give each variant inside of the main one a different name. And you can see that that appears inside of the asset library. When you open up the component, you then have the variant options as well as the properties that are available inside of that variant. And so what we typically do is we teach our customers to use this asset library. They turn things on or off using these buttons or using the different variants, and then they insert the component into the instance, and then they will pull those components into their frame, and then add their links, update the copy, update the images. Okay, and then just to show you what it looks like in finished form, here is our ultimate email design system. And so all of these have been set up as Figma components. They all have properties, and we've also split them out into different pages. So one thing that I quite like to do is just have a page for the header, a page for the heroes, the single column content, the buttons, and then when you go to your asset library and open that up, you then have those headings. So you have the heroes, headers, footers, images. So just from a naming convention or just from an organization standpoint, it's easier if you split out the different content types into these different categories. One thing that we didn't touch on is you can also turn entire templates into components. And so rather than having a single piece of content or a content block as a component, what you could do is you could create a new frame, add your components, and then you'd simply select the frame and then click on the component icon. And then that will turn that into its own component. And so if we go into the asset library, you can see here we now have a full component called email love, and that's a full template that we can then instantly start using. We can add our links. We can't easily change it, which is actually a good thing. So we can't. Let's just have a look here. Can we add new? Yeah. So when you turn a template into a component, the idea is that you don't want the end user, typically the marketer, to mess it up. You don't want them adding additional content blocks. You just want them updating the text, adding their links, changing the images, and then exporting. And so if you want more tighter control over what is included inside of a template, then building out the template itself and then turning it into its own component is a good way to manage your design system. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That is how to create a Figma component, add properties, create variants, and then use those with the Email Love Figma plugin. And what I would suggest is you go to the Figma community, you find Email Love, and then check out the Ultimate Email Design System, which is this one that you can see right here. This has all of our components. They're all set up correctly. They all have properties applied to them, and you can easily duplicate this file and then reuse it in your own marketing or reskin it for your own brand. So hopefully that helps, and that kind of helps you understand how Figma components work. And if you have any questions, just feel free to add a comment or join our Discord server and ask a question there. We have a really good and active community. So hope that was helpful. Thank you.